All right. Today I am presenting How to Survive Being Swallowed Alive. This is Chapter 8 of Gulp by Mary Roach. Highly recommend. A good book. Without further ado, let's get started. Intro. Being swallowed alive has been kind of depicted in like many movies and arts and different places and media and culture. It's kind of all stems from this original story of Jonah, who was swallowed by a whale as a victim of God's wrath. But as part of this chapter, they went to dig in deeper, thinking like, if you were swallowed alive, would you survive? So a number of experiments have been conducted over the years to find out if you were swallowed alive, would you survive? So let's find out. Let's dig in a little deeper. So for those of you who don't know, Jonah was just a dude in the Bible who was like claimed to have been swallowed by a whale. And so according to one expert, Philip Clapham, the narrative only works if the whale they're talking about is the sperm whale because of the severe mass of a sperm whale. Certain other whales that are smaller, baleen whales, which are similar to dolphins, have very small stomachs, so it couldn't be possible for them to have swallowed him. So it had to have been a sperm whale. So sperm whales are very large animals. They're like one of the biggest animals on Earth, as you can see, compared to the size of an elephant and a human. Blue whales are bigger, but they are still sperm whales are still very big. So they're up to 62 feet long, and they can pretty much just swallow anything. So fun fact about this chapter that I learned is that in 1955, a 405-pound squid was recovered from the inside of a sperm whale, and it was fully intact. So this proved that whales feed by suction, by this sheer intake that they offset when they open their mouths, and because their mass is so large that it allows for the suction to be so powerful. And then a 405-pound squid is pretty big, so it was kind of interesting, and it kind of helped advance the modern science. So if you were swallowed alive, what would happen to you after swallowing? In this scenario, we're going to be talking about a whale. So whales inhale a lot of food. Like I just said in the previous slide, they inhale a lot of food and they catch prey through their mouths. They're so powerful that the suction creates enough that they can just swallow things around them. However, they don't chew their food with their teeth, or as you traditionally think. It goes down to their stomachs, and then that's where they do a lot of the chewing. So it's like the acids and the enzymes in the stomach, they essentially make it so that they can just digest the food without having to chew it and with teeth. And they also have a series of stomachs that helps play a role in the digestion. It helps make it smoother, and as you get further along through the digestive tract, you get more and more digested until the point where you're not digested anymore. And like I said before, the whale's stomach has a series of stomach. In the first stomach, there is no digestive fluid. In the second and third stomach, hydrochloric acid and digestive enzymes are secreted, and so this shows a lot of the work of the digesting. And it's also probably how they were able to find a 405-pound squid fully intact within the whale's stomach. But this passage would not be big enough to fit a human, so this again kind of disproves the Jonah story. In addition to this, the pressures exerted by a whale could be over 500 pounds, and you could not survive under those conditions because you would just be crushed by the overarching force. So what stops the stomach from digesting itself? A Scottish anatomist, John Hunter, was extremely accomplished and helped contribute to a lot of modern surgery and the techniques that they use. So he did a lot of dissections, and one of the things he found during his dissections was that the tissues in the stomach were damaged in the same way that meat was after it's digested. So this is when he figured out that the stomach actually digests itself, so he was curious about why it wasn't digesting if it was digesting the same way that meat was when it was damaged. So his theory was that there's a special force exerted by the stomach that keeps it from getting eaten, or it just keeps it from eating itself. So he claimed that if one conceive a man to put his hand into the stomach of a lion and hold it there, the hand would not be the least bit digested. And he sort of just kind of said this for all living things, is that they sort of just exert a force that makes it so that you can't be digested. So we sort of want to find out more about why that is, and if that's correct. So was he right? About 75 years later, a French physiologist, Claude Bernard, had doubts about Hunter's evidence. I mean, as anyone would, it was kind of like it went a long time without anyone kind of proving or disproving the theory or doing any research on it. He conducted some of his own experiments where he put the live animals in the stomach of another animal to see if this would work. So for the first experiment, he used a dog, and then he put the hind legs of a frog who was just alive. And so, but then he opened this dog's stomach through a special hole in the stomach, and he found that the frog's legs were completely digested. And so this kind of like began to disprove the theory. And then, so because if there was a live animal in a stomach that was already digested, then it couldn't have been true that a live cells or live anything, gives off a force that makes it so that it can't be eaten. So, does the stomach digest itself? Yes, it does, because the chemicals in it, the pepsin and the gastric acid, digest the cells of the stomach's protective layer and mucosa quite differently. Then, eventually, through different research, they found that a healthy adult will have a new stomach lining every 3 days. This process helps keep the digestive system efficient. It helps keeps everything running, the system going. It's it's a good way to just kind of like keep the body refreshing itself, keeping it clean. It's just kind of like what the body does. So, stomach steaks so this is just kind of one other part of the chapter, was that for centuries people have been claiming about animals living inside of their stomachs, or like it's like, oh no, I swallowed a worm or something like that. I mean, yes, there are tapeworms, but a lot of the time when it feels like there are snakes living in your stomach, it's actually just because of the problems with ulcers. It can be problems with lactose intolerance, intemperance, and gas. It could be any one of those issues, and so that kind of disproved the theory of stomach steaks. But there is also the addition of tapeworms, but that's also a more serious issue, and that doesn't feel like something slithering around in your stomach. So conclusion, you cannot survive being swallowed alive unless you make it out within the first few minutes, probably. If you can somehow crawl your way out or puncture your way out, I would say. Most stories about people being swallowed alive are fake. There was a few stories in my chapter about how people on whaling ships in the 1800s were swallowed alive, but that's just not true. But also the stomach does realign itself every 3 days. It does not eat itself, and live animals and live organs do not exert a force that makes them indigestible. So that's my chapter. Thank you for listening. Remember to like and subscribe.